morning, good afternoon, early afternoon to some of you, late afternoon to some of you joining us, our European and global markets here. My name is John Carroll. Welcome to today's inService podcast event. The inService podcast is a series of content and both audio and video podcasts that we've been building some energy around over the last several years now, where we feature guests from both our technology and our industry community to share some of the ways that they got into the industry, to share a little bit about their organization, to spotlight their viewpoints on some of the major trends that we're tracking from a research standpoint. It's become a great resource for our community, and gosh, I got to tell you, every event that I host, I'm like, wow, we just upped the bar. We just upped the bar, and today we are upping the bar. I'm super pleased to be joined by Deepika DiGiovine. Deepika is the Vice President of Digital Services Technologies. I don't know exactly the nomenclature they use, but she is all things digital at Dover Corporation, a major organization, global in nature. And she's going to be sharing some special viewpoints today about her journey around technology and community and how together they enable transformation. So a very warm welcome to you, Deepika.
Thank you, John. It's my pleasure to be here.
Outstanding. So before we get back to you, Deepika, I just wanted to briefly go over some housekeeping items for our listening audience. We want to make this interactive. We want to make this as collaborative as possible. If you want to react to something you're hearing with commentary, please use your comment function on your LinkedIn or wherever you're listening to us today. If you want to react with some positivity or some reaction, there's always those emoticons that you can hit a thumbs up or a heart or something other that sort of speaks to you in terms of what you're hearing. We will, excuse me, find time to address any questions that you might have. So comments, reactions are one thing, but questions is another thing. And Deepika has offered her and expressed her willingness to react to the best of her ability to any questions that come in through our live stream today. And if you want to reference back this podcast as a resource, it will be available for download. You can visit theservicecouncil.com, or you can access it on any of your major podcast channels that you get your podcasts at. We're across all the different ones that you get them at. Without further ado, I circle back to Deepika. Deepika, can you please introduce yourself, personal, professional background, maybe a couple minutes about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Deepika DiGiovine. As John pointed out, I am with Dover Corporation right now. And my journey is an interesting one, starting as a manufacturing and automation engineer growing up in New Delhi, India, and working at Infosys, which you may know as a software firm, to doing consulting with McKinsey and Company in Chicago after my UFM MBA, which was fantastic experience, a very global international one. And doing strategy and operations, I found I love bringing things to life. So moved to GE and spent a decade there doing exactly that, starting out with lean and strategy to transitioning to global IT and digital roles in the US and in the Middle East for corporate as well as multiple businesses like oil and gas and renewables, to dabbling in the startup world in the IoT space and the venture capital space, and leading applications at other companies like Corning and now at Dover, driving the digital agenda, and really bringing capabilities that enable Dover to delight and win its customers in business. So that's about me professionally. Personally, I'm a mom of 3 kids, and balancing work and life is a daily adventure. And I love it. It comes with its joy and challenges. And I also am a person who cares a lot about community. It's about giving back, and I do spend my time with some of the community activities as well. In particular, I've been helping Safer Foundation for the past 5 years now.
Outstanding. We're going to learn more about the initiatives that you're associated with. They're very special, actually, in our planning processes and getting to know one another. Really touching some of the actions that you've taken to lead with service as humanity, right? Service is a function of humanity. and just incredibly impressive initiatives that you've associated yourself outside of the craziness of being a mom and a working mom. So I hear you. I hear you on that. I've got 4 kids, and it's a wild ride all the time. For our listening audience, could you introduce Dover Corporation? Right. So for those that might not know Dover Corporation, big brand, big company. Tell us a little bit about the company.
Sure. It's a question I take a lot of joy in explaining because I feel like Dover is a well kept secret. It's an $8 billion company, and you probably use its products on an everyday basis, but may always not know the brand. So if you've ever gone to a grocery store and open a refrigerator door to pick up your juice or milk, you're probably touching a Dover product. When you pick up your cheese from the lovely kiosks that carry those fancy cheeses, that's Dover product. When you go to fill your gas in your car and you touch the pump and you touch the touchpad and what you're standing on, everything underneath is Dover. When you get your car washed, it's Dover. Most of the manufacturing lines in the world have parts that come from Dover, and warehouses as well. Your pack of chips that you open, the manufacturing date and expiration date is printed by Dover Products. And a lot of wonderful printed materials are also from a specialty Dover products that are built, and your garbage truck is probably Dover. So I can go on and on in terms of products that we enable, from connectors that go into data centers and labs to bigger equipment that are making your cans of the Coca can that you probably had. So very, very broad spectrum of products. And it's a 65-year-old company that has continued to grow. And with this broad spectrum, Dover is organized around 5 different business segments that are all published on the Dover website if you haven't gone in there. And Dover is a company that, has grown through a lot of acquisitions over the past many years. And the brands that it acquired, it allowed them to keep that brand, to allow them to keep their special presence, which is unique about Dover. And what that means is you may not always see the Dover brand. You may see Heil, or you may see other products like Wayne, and those are Dover, and you will never know. But it also makes our job interesting in the digital side, where when we think of websites, it's not one, it's many brands that we're enabling as a part of the Dover family and allowing them to grow in their own special way, both commercially, supply chain, and other customer digital interfacing capabilities. So it's a great company with a great culture. And we're headquartered out of Downers Grove here in Chicago, outside of Chicago.
Outstanding, outstanding. Thank you for that overview. That was really helpful, actually, because as an aggregator, there are many different brands functioning under. But you just actually walk through my personal chore list for the week. So I have to go grocery shopping. I need a car wash, and I need to get gas. By the way, so I'll look forward to using your products in market as a consumer, as I do already. Can you share with us a day in the life of, as the VP of Digital Applications and Connected Factory? What departments do you collaborate with cross functionally? Can you talk a little bit about your day to day?
Sure. So in the world of digital, we're very focused on, aspects around how do we help our commercial and marketing teams go win in the market by making sure that our products are visible and searchable, and the experience for our distributors or other B2B or OEM customers is top notch. So working a lot with the marketing and sales and commercial teams is something that me and my team do spend a fair amount of time on, in enabling their web presence, their CRM, and making sure the data is all flowing and seamless and connected. We also enable a lot of the factory automation and factory optimization, which means connecting our machines to make sure that we are looking at the data and the true availability, the true real time OEE, and really creating productivity opportunities for our plant floor and safer and better employee experience. So working with the operations teams, working with the head of manufacturing for different businesses, working with the plant managers and the plant teams, and enabling their capability to working with head of safety, as we are also enabling safety applications. So that's the other part. And last but not the least, that you'd be obviously very interested in is the aftermarket service. How do we make sure that the product is installed well and is serviced well post the actual product sale? So working with the service teams, working with the business GMs that are working on the strategy on how they approach aftermarket. So those are some of the sort of the business teams that I would work with day to day. My day in life, working with my teams that I've stood out for enabling these pillars, working with my peers, because if we live in an interconnected world, to connect the machines, I want to make sure our network team is enabling and supporting to cybersecurity. So working with my peers to make that happen, working with the businesses and working with my own teams to make sure they have what they need and supporting them through the way. So it's a juggle between those three groups every day, but it's a fun one because we care about what we're making happen, and we've been on this journey for about 2.5 years almost, and we're seeing positive outcomes and results, which energizes everybody.
That's outstanding. Thanks for the overview. You mentioned something about customer enablement, and we've been tracking, the whole trend around customer personalization. Customer journeys have become more technical, and customers expect that personalized experience, right? We're experiencing things in our consumer lives that we expect across any industry sector. It's becoming I heard this comment during our board meeting, which we are so pleased to welcome you as an advisory board member. That's kind of
Thank
the
you.
announcement here today. We'll talk and reflect on that at the end of today's discussion. But one of the board members said, I don't compete against my peer industry within my industry. I compete against who's creating the best consumer experience that I feel in my everyday life. That's now the bar. And with that technical rise in terms of that journey, that customer journey, can you provide an overview of the customer evolution that you've witnessed at Dover Corporation? How has it evolved over time?
Totally. It's been a journey that continues to evolve, and it is a holistic one that we have set the vision on. Not that we've gone with a big bang, let's do all the pieces of the puzzle, but the puzzle has been defined up front, where we want to make sure we are enabling the customer journey 360 from the standpoint of, okay, we want them to be able to, first of all, find the products that they're looking for very easily. So enabling that web platform, making it very searchable, making the process seamless and easy once they've found the product and configured the product.
Mhm.
So enabling that digital configuration to then making the actual purchase and putting it in the cart and buying it. And once they've purchased, being able to see what the order status is, when is it going to get shipped, being able to log in their own portal and be able to see what it looks like, and be able to see their past orders, put repeat orders, all of that journey has been sort of that front end. And once they've purchased the product and they want to get parts and being able to go into the website and log in and enable that. Now, we do have big customers that don't like to always go into a portal and go and log in and make the purchase. They have their own ERPs and they have their own POs that they like to issue. So for those, we do have EDI, and we do have what we call optical character recognition so that they can feed the PO and it gets digitized and fed to our teams. So that's part of enabling the customer's unique needs, but also driving productivity for our teams where they're not getting the digital order through the e-commerce website. They can still get that digitized. And then driving the asset intelligence of that asset base. So a lot of our products now get accompanied with IoT enabled sensors that are driving some of the intelligence of the assets. Some of our dispensers have fantastic IoT intelligence that is being provided, and more is happening with some of our waste management products as well. And we made a lot of acquisitions along the way while we've grown this organically in-house as well to really accelerate that digital experience for the customer, to when the customer may call and having that customer service call be seamlessly connected and pull that customer data. So that's the other part of the journey we're on, to continue to evolve that. And then the end goal is to really have that full intelligence for the customer so they can strategically make decisions. for continued business with us. So it's a very holistic one, and we have digitized a lot of different pieces of this in that journey, not necessarily in that order, because as a business, we always take the approach of what is the biggest pain point today and where is the fastest return on investment to drive that, resolve that pain point for the customer, and make sure that it's a financially prudent decision and make that investment in that sequence. So a lot of our parts e-commerce was enabled first, then our web presence, and now we're digitizing a lot of the services. And some of the businesses that had the biggest IoT needs were digitized first. So hopefully that gives you a flavor.
It does. It certainly does. And I just want to double down on the topic of IoT and connected devices, which is a big part of your strategy. You, as a legacy company, you've been around for a long time. There's a lot of assets in field and that are perhaps not connected, right? So have you gone backwards and connected those, or do you have an end of life strategy? What is your approach to establishing the same digitization across your business from old to new? Because now new are coming out already connected. They're being designed, manufactured that way, but the old aren't, right? So is there a retrofitting of the IoT strategy, or is that something that you're looking at? Perhaps we need to look at end of life on those existing assets and transition to new. What is your approach in that regard?
So I can speak to that question based on two different viewpoints, internal and external, because we are also connecting our own machines in our own factories
Mm,
as much as we're helping our customers enable that. And the answer to that is we take a need-based approach versus a blanket approach
mhm,
to enabling that. Most of the customer-facing work has been digitized for the new equipment
mm,
that they have purchased from us, but we're also enabling connecting the equipment as a part of their entire manufacturing line that maybe we don't necessarily sell, but is part of their entire production line. And we actually launched a full connected solution for one of our operating company's customers earlier this year, and it was super well received. Internally, we're connecting the machines where we uh, feel, or where collectively our plant, our opco manufacturing teams, our operations teams at corporate, and us on the digital side collectively feel that there is a need to really track the availability and performance of a certain machine. Some factories might have up to 100 machines, but starting small, we started connecting anything from 10 to 12 machines per site that had the most critical role to play in the manufacturing process for the site, and tracking that machine availability and OE would have created very quick returns for them. So we prioritize those. And some of them were old, some of them were new.
right.
And we've connected them regardless. The newer ones were obviously easier to connect because they come with a lot of firmware as well as sensors that allow you to pull that data easier.
Mm,
On the older ones, we found creative solutions to put sensors, additional capabilities to allow for us to track the KPIs that were critical for the factory visibility. So hopefully that addresses. We've taken a need-based approach.
that's outstanding. Yeah, that's a great response and very helpful for our listenership. And we're going to get to the democratization of data and how you take the data in, assimilate, and make use of it thereafter. So we'll table that for now, but we'll get back to that because I think our listening audience probably wants to dive deeper on that. Let's go to the topic of rapid process automation. One of the biggest challenges that we continue to hear from service leaders is the integration of technologies into existing process workflows. 41% of service leaders, according to our 2021, we're just about to launch our 2022 survey, our service leaders agenda survey, cited this as the greatest inhibitor to witnessing value from new technology investments. How has Dover Corporation fostered a culture of rapid automation? And I've got two questions behind that relatable.
Sure. So there are two things that are paramount to starting any digital initiative that is trying to automate a process. The first is, what is the business strategy, and why that certain process, if digitized, is going to create value and strategically deliver or address a pain point that the business is facing. We always like to start with that why, and make sure that there's clarity around that, because if there's clarity around that, then there's going to be, the appropriate support and understanding to actually take advantage of the digitization. And it'll also make sure that we're digitizing the right part of the process, because one could always digitize everything, but that takes time. And we're in the age of agile, where you are in the And so we like to start with, what are we trying to do? Why this particular part of the process matters, and ensure that there is clarity, alignment, and agreement, and sign up from the business and the operations team that touch that process, to support that and be fully behind it. Then making sure that the solution is addressing and they're part of the solution, driving the training and making sure that it is understood. This is not once and done. We are going to continue to iterate, learn from it, and then scale it. And that model has served us well. We've also, found benefit in taking advantage of the variety of different businesses that Dover comprises, and allow for a lot of best practice sharing amongst them. But what we've also found is there is no one size fits all, because of the variety of businesses. But there are common themes that have emerged where once we build something, there are usually two or three or even four other opcos that are able to take advantage of that. And as we enhance it for another opco, there might be another two or three. So that variety and scale has also allowed us as teams to build products and platforms that are more robust and flexible for that agile iteration model.
Outstanding. Start with the why. I love it. Clarity, alignment, and agreement. Outstanding. And I'll reference a point that I heard at our recent symposium. Digital transformation is a continuum. There's no start and there's no finish line, right? It is a continuum. So, kudos on the responses there. Um, on the same topic, how have you fostered, or how has Dover fostered a culture of innovation and experimentation?
Um, I would say there are multiple pieces to doing that. I think we've had great support from our leadership, all the way from our CEO, Rich Tobin, to our finance leadership that has been supportive of that, to our CDO, Girish, who is a product builder at heart and loves to experiment and learn every single day, to really a culture within Dover that is driving the spirit of innovation. The company as such has continued to make acquisitions that are digitally focused over the last 3 years, and integrating them into the Dover fold and helping those grow, I think has been a great way to inorganically spearhead that growth. And an example is we used a 3D automation software for configuring some of our products for a company called Destaco. We loved it so much, we ended up buying that company, and we've scaled it across many different Dover products. And because of our own needs, we've used it in so many different ways than just 3D automation, from training to creating part repositories, that now we're scaling it for other customers outside of Dover as well. And that kind of spirit helped inorganically to grow that spirit of innovation. The other aspect I would say is organically start small, scale fast, right? So we have experimented with things like AR glasses, where we were doing remote video collaboration and we wanted to have it hands-free for our service teams. We demoed it to our operations team and they loved it so much that they say, you know what, we need it for our sites given COVID and other travel restrictions. It's been hard to get to all our sites and we want to be able to live interact with them. So now we have AR glasses at some of our critical sites that are going through expansion, and the operations team internally is using that product. Started as a small innovation for helping some of the services teams, but became a stronghold for how we run our businesses and sites in some of the other locations. So those would be two examples, I'd say. Leadership, culture, inorganic innovation, and organic innovation of starting small and scaling fast.
Outstanding. Yeah, I love that. We, a really interesting point by Greg Ratcliffe. Greg is a board member, board member. He's the chief innovation officer of Vertiv, and he brought up the point of looking at how much innovation was happening as an output, as an outcome from your organization. He reflected on, the post pandemic, and how patents were down 20 to 30% year over year from their organization, and that was a reflective moment that, oh goodness, maybe innovation isn't as where it needs to be. And one of the other points that I'll bring up from an innovation standpoint is it doesn't have to just come from leadership. It can come directly from the front line. And one of the shocking revelations from our Voice of the Field Service Engineer survey, thinking about the front line, was that 40% of responding technicians and engineers didn't feel that they had a role in the innovation at their company. So I think there's still opportunities for improvement to go to the front line and bring that back in a circular fashion up to leadership and make it a co-creation type environment.
That's a
Yeah,
really
please.
good point, John. And I did want to add a couple of things on that front. And thank you for that cue that we are doing, because you're right, innovation can come from anywhere, and it does. So I'll share a couple of examples of
Sure.
how we're finding that. So one of the things we've done is for all the digital capabilities, we have created forums where we bring, in the case of commercial, all the marketing and sales teams who are touching the system, who are really day to day running those functions across all the operating companies to come and do best practice sharing. We call it PEAK, Process Excellence and Knowledge Exchange. And there are ideas that they're bringing to the table that, one likes and the other runs with it, or we're able to scale company wide. We also have a forum on the manufacturing side where we're bringing the actual what they call continuous improvement leaders and plant managers to the meetings where we're sharing what are some of the capabilities that we have launched to make sure that they're aware. But in those forums, they do bring ideas. Wouldn't it be nice if I had that feature and that feature? And we've actually gone and implemented some of those features because at the end of the day, the end users bring a ton of experience and wealth of information and ideas that sometimes only come by being on the front lines. So that has been fantastic. And then on the services side, we run an internal service council that we've been running it for 2 years now almost. And we bring a lot of different service leaders across all our operating companies in different time zones that the teams are in to bring ideas and experimentation. And through those, we definitely have a couple of different ideas that are in the germination stage right now that we're in the process of experimenting and hopefully launching in 2023. So really excited about that. Thank you for the cue, because whether it's here at Dover or in my prior experiences, I've found that immensely useful to actually go visit the factory, go be on the field, see how they're operating and what their challenges are. And the ideas coming from them have been amazing. And I'll share one example from my prior world where
Please.
something as simple as when a person from our field team would go in and perform an inspection and then would have to take pictures, take notes, and then go back and write that inspection report, add those photographs, would take up to a week from the visit to get it all done and get it back to the customer between all the visits they had. And they're like, wouldn't it be nice? This is in my prior world at GE, and we said sure, and we experimented with at that time an AR glass, which had the ability to voice type and record pictures. And we basically created a draft at the end of their site visit that they were able to edit pretty quickly versus having to manually create everything. And that went from 7 day cycle to a 2 day cycle. And the idea
Outstanding.
purely came from the field technician and the field service manager that was managing the operation. So absolutely it comes from everywhere, especially the ground up.
In the moment. I love it. I love it. And geez, that concept of service council, that is brilliant. That is outstanding. Can you run back by our listenership the acronym PEAK, Process Excellence and
Knowledge.
Knowledge? Perfect. I love that. I'm going to welcome you back for another one, and we're going to talk about innovation. We're going to have a panel at some point because I want to dig into that one. But let's continue on this rapid process automation and the challenge of integration of technologies thread for just one more.
Mhm.
How has Dover created a culture that thinks about both functional and technical roadmaps? How do you create a convergence of these two things? That we find that that's still a challenge with respect to many of the members that we're engaging with. Can you talk a little bit about where functional and technical roadmaps kind of converge?
It's a great question, and I think there are multiple pieces to that puzzle. Um, One is really taking a product versus project-based approach to technical deployments. When we build a capability for an operating company that has a need in the commercial space or in the factory space, we are all our services, we're always looking at, okay, so what is the broader need? And we have done enough surveys to understand and what our ecosystem is in other operating companies or what are some of the pain points. So we try to build that in a manner that allows us to do the next deployment that much faster, that much cheaper because we've built some building blocks, the Lego blocks. So we've really taken a product-based approach where our first deployments to our fourth deployment, we've come down significantly in cost and time to deploy it because there's a lot of reuse of components and capabilities that and integrations that we've been able to reuse. And that allows for flexibility on the functional aspects. So number one, understanding the broader landscape, not waiting for perfection. We didn't wait forever to collect every piece of requirement from every single operating company to do that. But we did, spend a couple months in each of the pillars initially, and we through these councils keep that up to date on what the broader ecosystem and big pain points are. That informs us to make sure that we're taking a product-based approach. The other thing is really having that strategy and vision defined up front as to how we want to make sure that the customer experience from the time they're looking for a manual clamp or a connector on the World Wide Web to then finding that product, to purchasing that product, to then coming for customer service is something we want connected. Having that vision, clarity, and strategy up front allows that whether we're building the customer service piece or we're building the commercial piece, we know we want the data structure and the architecture to be able to allow for a seamless experience eventually as those building blocks come up, whether they come up today or 6 months or a year from now. So that has driven our architecture and our data strategy to allow for that evolving growth. And at the end of the day, this is all about solving the business's needs. So the business has to drive a lot of the requirement and the outcomes and the adoption of it. So having them as part of this versus just forcing a solution, right? True partnership between technology and the business functions. I think those things are critical to really having a tighter integration between those two.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Let's move to digital enablement because we're talking about this connected ecosystem and strategy and the impact to the customers when it's seamlessly done. The impact to the customers and the employees is magical. It's outstanding. You see employee experience go up and effort becomes less. And the friction in the day-to-day life of your employees goes down, right? And it becomes an easier environment for them. And obviously that translates to the customer as well. What has Dover sort of learned over time about the impact of this seamless journey, this connected experience to both the customer and the employee? What have you witnessed?
Um, it is really gratifying to see the outcomes of some of this and the learnings from all of this, right? We have seen overall, from the customer standpoint, people finding it easier to find what they're looking for, whether it's on the website or having the e-commerce platform to very quickly buy or be able to check their order status. It does make their life a lot easier, and we've received a lot of positive responses from our customers where we've enabled for these operating companies to be able to do that. Um, and then providing that capability also provides our employees better productivity where they're not having to manually type in everything. And they can spend their time on more value add activities with their customers or for their customers. to our sales teams and business leaders having more insights and analytics around how the actual outcomes are driving results or not, so that they could, use that to inform their strategy. To employees on the shop floor where we've connected these machines, and I've done a lot of our plant walkthroughs, and I love going to the actual cell operator or the machine operator and asking, okay, is this working for you? What is working well? What is not working well? And every time the response is, this is really helpful, thank you. And here's what else I want. So clearly we feel like the employees are finding it empowering to have access to that data at their fingertips and making it easier for them to track it. And when they come and tell us, you know what, this code, when I enter, this is not telling me exactly what I need, and they spot the error, it shows amazing engagement. So it's, it really drives enthusiasm in adoption and exploration of further rollout of these things and further innovation of these things. So, it's a two-way street, and you've got to keep the engagement full 360 internally and externally to keep the momentum.
Outstanding, outstanding. And let's shift our attention towards the revenue and go to market side, right? Because we're not just solving the post sale experience. There's a pre-sale experience as well, right? And every step and every customer touch point is truly a conversion opportunity to either deepen their engagement, or to witness defection, right? And so there's many data points out there that would suggest that when it's not a seamless experience, they won't return, and their loyalty goes down, and there's all sorts of um, sort of correlation of the seamless nature of the digital experience and their willingness to continue to be a customer in terms of loyalty. How has Dover connected the ecosystem to create a seamless go-to-market in that pre-sale experience? Is it similar to what we've just talked about in the post-sale setting? Is it kind of all encapsulating? Are these things kind of universal?
Um, the vision of having the full life cycle of customer experience as a part of the strategy that we want to, enhance and digitize has been at the core of driving that. And absolutely, the pre-sale experience has been part of that strategy and has been enhanced. So, as an example, it's not just a pretty website. There's a lot that goes into making sure how Google ranks a particular website and how particular words get found. So making sure that that clarity exists and that investment is made to make sure that our products are easily findable on the World Wide Web. And once the user or a customer comes to our website, they are finding it easier to find what they're looking for, and finding all the information and navigating easier and being able to contact and get information easier has been a critical part of our strategy over the last 2 years. We have enabled that for 8 different brands over the last 2 years, and we have another 5 that we're doing for the next year. So that journey has been really fulfilling, where we can actually see in a measurable performance how our keywords that we are part of our product portfolio are more findable. Our website engagement has been better. For some of our websites, it's been 7 times more. And the visits have increased drastically more because the products are now more findable. And there's technical, there is content, and there's strategy aspects that we had to make sure we enable in collaboration with our marketing and sales team and the business leadership to make that happen. And we're seeing continued lead generation from that, where we see that those visits actually translate into real orders and net new customers. So it's been really thrilling to see that. And now connecting that so that once they found the product, they can actually go and make the purchase easily. And connecting that e-commerce experience has also been part of our journey. And we actually launched a website in April this year that completes that journey. And now we have more and more of those where we're looking for a seamless experience from finding, configuring, to buying.
Outstanding. We had a comment from one of our listening audience members, and I think it's a question, but I'm going to pose it as a question anyways, if it isn't. And that is to provide an example of reduced friction in the field data capture setting. And I think you talked about your previous life at GE, the Google Glass, and the
Mhm,
ability to
mhm,
shorten the time frame for capturing information from 7 days to 2 days.
mhm,
Are there any other areas within, because referencing back the Voice of the Field Service Engineer survey,
mhm,
there are paperwork and administrative tasks continue to burden field
mhm,
engineers.
mhm, mhm.
The time spent finding information continues to burden field service engineers. There's a multitude of different things: isolation, travel time. There's all sorts of there's many things that are still um, impacting negatively utilization, and creating that friction in the day-to-day job. Are there any other scenarios or examples that you can highlight in terms of how you've removed friction from the field?
Absolutely. So at the start of COVID, one of the things we started to launch was enabling visual support for the customers without having to actually physically be on site. So we rolled out a visual support solution for 11 of our operating companies where we allowed for the customer service as needed or the field engineer to actually support the customer remotely through video collaboration. We're very used to whether it's FaceTime or WhatsApp video very easily in our day-to-day life, but being able to link it with the service ticket or the phone call that came and with that ticket seamlessly say, would you like a video support right now, and connecting that to a video call where they can annotate live or they can translate live or they can measure live and be able to through that video call enable support and resolution versus having to wait for an on-site visit, to using those video calls to prepare in the cases where we knew the on-site visit was needed, but making sure that we could reduce the time necessary during the on-site visit or having to solve that in one visit itself, the first time yield, because we'd done the video prep ahead of time, has been immensely useful and has continued to scale for our operating companies, whether it is product installation or product support and service, and
Outstanding.
whether it is our own direct customers or customers that we've sold to through our distributor channel. We have been able to leverage that capability to support. So much so that now we're scaling that for what we call digital workflows, where even before the call happens, capturing a lot of information so it simplifies and it shows up and it's all a connected piece where the customer gets a copy of that recording so that they can actually go back and see and be able to cross leverage that as well post the call. So it's been definitely very helpful and has improved the first time yield for half of our operating companies. It's very well embraced with our field techs and field engineers because it really helps make their job easier and our customers.
Outstanding. Outstanding. I reference a quote that I heard also at the symposium recently, and it was, "I'm drowning in data, but starving for knowledge." Let's move to, how do you take in all the different data points, all this data aggregation and assimilation and democratization so that it is easily digested and made to be a resource and a powerful tool for your organization? Can you talk a little bit about that whole democratization process that Dover has embraced?
It's an excellent question, also. Data is as good as it's understood and used.
Mm,
And what we've found is it's not just about understanding the need and providing a solution that actually solves the need, but it's also about hand holding a little bit post that to making sure that the insights are being looked at, understood, and utilized, because that then creates the momentum. So to do that, we've done several things. Number one, we actually invested in a data lake where we pull in a lot of the data from our ERPs and our commercial capabilities that we've launched so that the businesses can go and look what is the kind of conversion rate they're getting by region, by customer, et cetera, and be able to make smart decisions with that. And we've provided that dashboard access. Not everybody might have been looking at it. So making sure that in our conversations, we were saying, hey, did you look at it? And then once they started looking at it and they said, you know what, I'd really like the data this way and that way. And we gave them the power to modify the dashboard to their own needs.
Hmm.
where they can wake up every morning and look the exact view they desire. Because today, whether it's Power BI or other analytics tools, they allow you to self-serve very easily. These are very low code or no code configurations you can do. So we enabled the data lake. We made sure everybody had access, that needed access, and was using it, was aware of it, and had the ability to modify the dashboard to their needs. And then having appropriate KPIs that are measured on a regular basis, because what's not measured is not improved, and what's out of sight is out of mind. So making sure that those measurements and KPIs are broadly looked at on a periodic basis and being used to drive change in behavior, change in adoption has been critical. And that is part of some of our measurements and goals. It's part of many different cross-functional groups measurement and goals to drive those KPIs. And that drives the adoption to making sure that the data is looked at. The other part is really driving clarity and understanding. So we have dashboards on the manufacturing side. What do they really mean, and how to really take advantage of that for things even beyond one would, on surface think about, oh, I'm measuring OEE, but to measure OEE, I also need to put my planned utilization. And when I multiply the two, I get my effective utilization. And that drives, how do I plan my capacity? Oh, so I could really think about capacity planning even though I'm measuring OEE. So that required a lot of training, making sure we put clickable screens at different locations of the factory where people could go and look at it multiple times a day versus just once in 2 weeks. So making that data easier and accessible where it will be used best and by who it'll be used best, and continuous training and rhythms that drive the KPIs. That's been critical in that.
We saw an emerging trend from our KPIs and metrics survey last year of not a shift away from the effect, but a shift towards supplementing the effect KPIs with the cause KPIs. So the causal factors that are resulting in this effect to your organization. So an example of that would be first time fix rate is an outcome, right? It either is solved on the first visit or it isn't. But what is impacting that? Right? It is dispatch efficiency, triage and diagnosis, it's skill set, it's knowledge, it's parts availability, right? It's all these things, all these functions and factors that are causal in nature to that outcome. And so I'm looking forward to building upon that. We'll be revisiting our KPIs and metrics research in the first half of next year to see what are the top trends and go to KPIs and measurements moving forward. And I'd like to welcome you back because I'd love to hear your viewpoints on that. Let's go to another one that wasn't planned, isn't planned, but I'm going to throw it at you and see if we can keep you on your toes here. We've talked about IoT already, so I'm going to skip over that planned question, and I'm going to go to what's next for the organization. What is Dover forecasting as key priorities? We're all flipping the page into CY23, and annual planning is upon us in many respects. What are prioritized initiatives that you're considering as you move forward?
I will carefully answer that question because we want to make sure that is communicated by the channels that we do for our investors, which is in the process of getting done. But I can tell you, we will continue to innovate. We will continue the journey we're on right now in terms of a digital enhanced customer experience, more connected machines, driving insights and outcomes and productivity from that, and enabling digitized field service capability for multiple operating companies. So I think that journey continues and scales. And in terms of collaboration between businesses, our corporate operations function, and our digital function and cybersecurity function to continue to really evolve and grow this platform. I think none of those change, and we'll continue to add more KPIs that measure that outcome. As we've been scaling this for a while, we're starting to see results, and those KPIs will become more stronghold.
I'm so incredibly humbled to welcome you as one of our newest advisory board members. So thank you for your willingness to join us in that capacity. That means that our community um, will be the beneficiary of hearing from you with more consistency moving forward, because this has been a great discussion and a great resource for our community. So thank you. Can you talk a little bit about what this affiliation for you is intended to be and what you expect to get out of that relationship?
Sure. I firmly believe that it takes a village, and whether it is working cross-functionally within your organization, top down with your teams and your employees, to working across in the community as well. And I think having a community of peers outside of your company that you can engage and collaborate with, exchange best practices with, I think is critical in this day and age. We're living in the world of open source, and sourcing ideas and best practices. Why not? And sharing. So I think that is definitely one key reason why I'm excited. I've also found that forum to be engaging both intellectually and personally. I think it's a great collection of attendees and board members that you have, very eclectic set of experiences, and diversity matters not only in different race and gender, it also matters in thought. And I'm looking forward to a diversity of experiences that I can contribute and tap into through this forum. And I've
Uh,
definitely enjoyed the actual Service Council um, conferences that you organize, John.
Thank you, Deepika. I appreciate that. And let's close out the discussion with something personal about yourself. There are two things that you referenced in our planning discussions that I think are just outstanding. So I'll let you do them justice. Can you talk a little bit about something that's personal to you, or a passion outside of work, or maybe something that is personal but you've built into work? So.
Absolutely. So it was a little over 5 years ago that I started engaging with Safer Foundation, where I met the CEO, and he said, "Hey, would you please help us on the technology side? We could really use somebody with your experience to help." And I started helping them, and on various aspects, all technology, and then over a period of time became their board member, and helping them initiatives beyond technology as well. And Safer Foundation is close to my heart because when Victor, the CEO, told me about the organization, I was touched by the goal of that organization. So Safer basically helps people with records of any kind get back on their feet and have re-entry into the community, into the society, so that it reduces recidivism of them getting back into prison, and really bringing a greater, safer environment for them and the community at large. And that's why it's called Safer Foundation. And they do a lot of different things to enable that, from helping people who are from a year of release to start to get training and health support and counseling support, housing support, connecting and networking to find jobs. It is not easy, I learned through my 5 years at Safer, legally, for people with records to get back into society. There are tons of restrictions, and people deserve a second chance. And when the right
I agree.
environment, the right support is provided, a lot of goodness comes out of it. And It's been fantastic to see some of the clients and their stories that Safer Foundation has helped. They operate a whole bunch of centers here in the Chicagoland area. Recently, I had the pleasure of also visiting their center in Quad Cities. There is a ton of good work that they're doing, where people with records, when they're getting back, they need some additional skills for kind of jobs that might be showing up. And recently, I was visiting the Quad Cities factory that we have, and I visited the Safer Foundation location, and I found that they were teaching their clients manufacturing technology and getting back in manufacturing area. And we do manufacturing. So I thought, and the center had tons of interest in helping and giving back to community. So helping connect our local center with the Safer Foundation to find what ways they could partner and help each other was something that I took great joy in personally. But over the 5 years, I think from taking the approach of holistic health and really me also getting educated on the challenges that a lot of people face in getting back to society and helping them in my small way has been really gratifying.
That's outstanding. That's outstanding. There was one other personal passion of yours.
Yes,
You want to spend a minute about that one?
absolutely. So, being a female myself and growing up, I remember when one day I told my family I wanted to be an engineer, and my grandfather asked me, "Do girls go into engineering at all?" Girls in STEM has been an area of passion. One second.
No worries.
Sorry, swallowed the wrong
I,
pipe.
I've had that happen many a times.
So, girls in STEM has been an area of passion. Oh my God. And I've been able to, sorry, let me mute myself.
No worries, Deepika. Um, Pleased to report while you clear your throat.
Thank
The
you.
service, the Service Council's focus on gender diversity and our growth within the female demographic has been something that we've been really focused on over the last several years. And we are aiming for a 50% representation from the female demographic at our board level. We are a little shy of that. We're about 30%, but we are trending in the right direction. It keeps going up and up, and Deepika is one of those new additions. So, Deepika, if you're ready to continue the swing on this initiative, please join us back.
Thank you. Oh, wow. So, back on, really passionate about women in STEM because of my own personal experiences. And through my career, I've had a chance to really help a lot of different women. I don't know what's happening right now. I've never had this. Anyhow, I had a lot of women through my career that I've been able to bring in my team, see them grow, see them thrive. And that's an absolute joy from very interesting circumstances from somebody from Qatar who had a Iranian, no, Iraqi citizenship to women who had never been in IT and nobody wanted to take a chance on them. I've really had the pleasure of doing that through my career and really seen them grow to now helping the partnership for Dover with Girls Who Code and really helping underprivileged women get back in STEM. So really excited about that partnership
Outstanding.
with Girls Who Code, as well as really helping women throughout my own career. And I continue to be champion for them because it's not easy in all cultures to have women be able to pursue their own dreams, specifically in STEM and in corporate workforce as well, helping them grow into leadership positions. So I really take passion in that.
Outstanding. Deepika, I want to thank you so much. She's Deepika DiGiovine. She is the Vice President of Digital Applications and Connected Factory of Dover Corporation, the newest advisory board member of the Service Council. I am so thankful for today's discussion and all the contributions we expect to have over the course of this coming year and beyond. Thank you so much for joining.
It is my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me here today.
If you're looking to reference back today's podcast, please visit our website, servicecouncil.com. You can also access it on all the major podcast channels that you get your podcasts at. Thank you for joining, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.